Okay, we're official now. So as you know, my name is Danielle, and I recently moved to Tucson, Arizona from Los Angeles, California, with my now husband. And we weren't married when we came here. We only came here, according to him, so that I could possibly get a break on my tuition by being a resident here. It has yet to happen, but hopefully it will happen soon. And also, Arizona, when we visited, seemed like a really kind of back place for somebody like me because I'm also disabled. I have a cognitive disability. And I'm learning so much in this class because I'm like, how does the ADA apply to me? Or like at ASU, how does sales apply to me? Because with a cognitive disability, what really challenges my disability is the environment. I get easily overstimulated by loud noises, lots of people. I get a lot of anxiety. Driving is very challenging for me. A lot of times people will drive very erratically, and stress always triggers my symptoms. And then once they're triggered, it's like, oh, they're off and running. And this has been going on for 13 and a half years, right? So I've had to just learn how to deal with it. I do a lot of napping. It's usually the best way to reset myself. But, I'm grateful because I'm mobile and I have all my five senses, and the cognitive disability just makes me a little more special. That's how I see it. I have lost some friends. I have had some challenges and some difficulties with family members because unfortunately people have a hard time with cognitive disabilities because a lot of times they're invisible. And so I look well, I seem well, and maybe I just have an attitude problem or I'm just, crazy. I don't know. So that's my story. And I'm hoping to be able to work by using my lived experience. I'm a recovering addict. I have 13 and a half years of sobriety. And I also never figured out whether the using of substances came first or the mental illness, because oftentimes people like me with cognitive disabilities, we self-medicate and we don't even realize that's what we're doing. So I gave up trying to figure it out. I just take care of myself and stay in the solution. And in the process, I've learned a lot about how to help myself. And I want to share that with others as a counselor, people who don't know how to navigate the system. And oftentimes, as a person living with my type of disability, it's really hard to figure out that you have a disability and that there's services available to you. So I want to be able to share that with other people. So that's all I have to say.
Okay. Well, I'm Dan, and I'm going to use a different word. My condition is blindness. Um, it sounds like we're very similar. I will not let my blindness control me. I control it as much as I can. I have traveled overseas twice so far with friends, downhill ski. I My older brother is an engineer, and him and I created a shooting system for the blind and patented it. So I hunt game with a rifle now.
Wow.
And nope, nobody ever touches my rifle. I carry it. I
Uh-huh.
run my butt off. Last one was a black bear run. So I had to go 3/4 of a mile on foot with my brother, my tripod, my rifle, and this boy don't run. Not long distance. But our guide said that our hunting dogs had been the bear came out of the tree twice on them, and if it happened a third time, they'd have to shoot my bear for me. And I said no, no. And that's kind of like life. I No, you're not getting my bear. I am. So I'm
Mhm.
gonna get there and do it. And that's
Right,
basically how I treat my condition. It's not going to control me.
right.
So, um, like I said, I've traveled. I've done a lot of sports and climbing, rock climbing, places I shouldn't have been without ropes with my brother. Also went down into a copper mine
Oh, wow.
that the cap had fallen in.
Oh,
So it was kind of illegal, but we went down there, and he ended up lifting me up so I could chisel a piece of copper off the ceiling, and then took it back to Michigan Tech and did some acid solution or something to get the rest of the rock out of it. So I have a pure piece of copper that I mined.
Nice.
So, in short, you can see I like to be adventuresome, and
Yes.
so uh, can't really think of anything else as an overview for you, unless
Well,
you
that's
have.
pretty good. You're pretty exciting. I'm glad you're still with us. I'm glad no bears ate you.
Yeah,
You barely made it.
well, I was 220 pounds. He was 180. I outweighed him at least.
Oh, yeah, that's a cub. Oh, you had it all along. That's funny. I'm glad you're still here with us, though, for real. I have never seen a bear in person. I've seen that there's lots of them where I come from in California in the mountains, like Yellowstone. Is it Yellowstone or wait, no, not Yellowstone, Yosemite.
Yeah.
And I went backpacking one time when I was a teenager, and we had to tie our food in the trees. And I'm like, wait, what's going on here? Like, I thought this was going to be fun. This doesn't sound fun.
Do
But
you
like, no
do you
bears with.
do you travel much?
I really don't. It's challenging for me because of my condition. I like that word. I'll take it from you. And
Right.
yeah, so I actually am going back home to LA on Tuesday to see my dad. And that's an hour and a half flight. But my husband and I, the last time I traveled was with him, and we went to New York, and I didn't realize what I was signing up for because I had done most of my traveling before I got to know about my condition. And it was a rough one. There was a lot of bad turbulence, there was a lot of people. Oh my gosh, that was just the most amazing hawk that just flew by. Sorry.
Um,
And it was just a lot for me. And we had to rent a hotel room so I could relax. So it gets a little overwhelming. And I don't go into it thinking like I'm gonna have that experience. I go into it like you, like, where's the bears? Like bring it on.
well,
But
I lived in Michigan, and in the Upper Peninsula, there's I think it's the something bear reserve,
mhm.
and you get to walk around. It's all fenced in
Oh,
bears, but they're
nice.
they're bears that are back in the wild. They're not caged. Um, but I mean, we were up there, and there's a bear sleeping. There's a bear scratching its back against the tree. And
Aw.
then if you pay $10, you can go in.
And run from them?
Uh, they'll take they'll take a picture
Oh.
of you and my wife and I.
Mhm.
She had a spoon with Fruit Loops, and
Oh.
she was feeding this little bear cub,
Aw.
and I was petting it.
That's so sweet. Now, can
So
you do that with the bigger bears or only the cubs?
only the cubs,
Okay, they don't know
because
yet. They don't.
they don't make them pets. They just let you pet them when they're really young and vulnerable, and then let the parents.
Where's Mama Bear? Is she like, excuse me?
I don't know how they do that. I really,
Okay.
but it was. I'm glad I did it because it's the only time I'll probably ever be able to pet a live bear.
Oh, that is so sweet. I can't say I pet my kitten every day, but that's about as close as I get to fur.
But
She's a little bear cub.
so yeah, if you're ready,
I'm ready. Let's go. Otherwise, we could just chit chat the whole time, and I don't think Mr. Fisher's gonna like that. He's gonna be like, I didn't want to hear his bear stories. Let's see. Question number one. Can you share how I'm going to use the words that are in my questions,
that's
so
fine.
feel free to change them around. Can you share how your disability impacts your daily life, both positively and negatively?
Um, I basically I just deal with it. If I've had to do a lot of complaining about safety issues with like street crossings, um, light rail platforms. Sighted people put it together and think it's good, and then I will come along and, well, this is kind of dangerous. It's wide open here.
Mhm.
There's no indication that I'm on the track here. Um, yes, you have audible street signals, but I can't hear them, so they don't do me much good. So that type of stuff I have to fight all the time. When they were building the light rail up this way, I knew one of the safety coordinators for the construction crew, and I would get calls from her company. Mr. French, we need you to stay home for 2 weeks. We're going to be working right out in front of your complex. And I'd bring it up to my friend, and she'd say, no. And we'd go out, and she'd say, no, you guys don't need this until 10 days from now. And all you have to do is make a safe pathway so everybody can still get around. And at that point, my guide dog had no clue how to get out into those paths that they make where you're going down the road, in the road.
Mm-hmm.
So, no training at all. She just, Dan, tell your dog to follow. And it just took one time going in and out of one of those. And she understood. So, I do. I get a lot of help. But if there's trouble, I just start calling, and some of it's complaining, some of it's just educating the public. Hey, this is
Right.
not this is not right. What can
Yeah.
we? So
Yeah, your feedback is really important. Because you use word, you reminded me of how powerful language is when you chose to use the word condition. And that reminded me about using the word complaining because you're really not complaining. You're giving them feedback that they need. Otherwise, they're not going to know unless they have like maybe a consultant who is visually impaired. But otherwise, how are they going to know? They need to hear from you.
yep, yep.
So that's good that you're an activist in a lot of ways.
I try to. If not, I'd probably be sitting in the corner doing nothing and bored out of my head.
Right. This is a good point.
Oh,
So yeah, your feedback is very important. We need to hear what it is that is going to work because I know for myself, I take things head on and some people see it confrontation as a confrontation and I'm like, no, I need answers. I need to ask questions. Like I can't do this unless I talk. So
exactly,
yeah.
exactly. And I'm starting to get tired of the. Well, just go online and leave a
Mm,
message here. Okay. How do I know if the secretary sees it or if the president of the company sees it who needs to see it
hmm
or if they just junk it? I'd rather talk to
Right.
somebody because I can hear, I know what, I know if you're just blowing me off. I can tell that through speech. You can hear it.
Right. Right. I hear you.
So,
Yeah. Well, I will keep that note to myself in the event that I run for president and I can enact changes. I'm just kidding. Because I go through the same circles, and I feel frustrated myself. Like I'm working on something right now with the I guess it's the Department of Vocational Services. And I have been continually emailing them and I get like a automated email back and I'm like, that doesn't mean anything to me. Like I'm trying to get my life going here. Let's go, So I just keep calling every week. It's the best I can
um,
do.
off the record, be be a B word.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I
I'll work
I
on that.
I have been trying. The Voc Rehab is for counselors and all that. It's so what's the like tough. There's
Mm.
turnover, and
Yes, it's the same thing in California. That's
but
crazy.
there's a lot more of us than there are of counselors. But
Ooh,
if my favorite thing to tell people is squeak. It's the squeak
right.
wheel that gets the grease.
Exactly. I agree
And
with you on
I've
that.
been doing this for about 10 months now. So
Well, I had to
it,
call Sacramento to get my laptop because the lady that was my counselor said well, you don't have a disability. I said, excuse me? Why am I even part of this organization if I don't have a disability? I'm like, no, I do have one and I would like a laptop, please.
Yeah, exactly.
So
So,
that really offended me because I'm having a hard time embracing my new life. And then when you have those type of challenges, you're like, I really wish you were right, but you're not.
well, and I would just say, put yourself in my shoes. I'll
Yeah,
in yours. And
right.
I will tell you one thing. Um, I am volunteering as a mentor
Nice.
with somebody who's going blind, and it's a rehab center that has multiple conditions.
Mm.
And we get into group so I can hear what my mentee is going through. And they want me to talk, and the first thing I told them is, I don't know you guys that well, and to me, I'm kind of, what is that, mother justice.
Okay.
I'm blind.
Hmm.
You're just a person. You're not somebody that walks with crutches. You're not somebody who's in a wheelchair. You're just people.
Mm-hmm.
And since they can see, that kind of hit them, that, and that's the one thing I preach all the time: person first.
Good idea.
I'm not a blind person.
Okay.
I
Right.
stand, I do this, I do this, I do this, I this, I'm this, and oh, and by the way, I'm blind.
Right. Right. I'm working really hard on that because I always felt like I'm glad we're having this conversation. I always felt like I had to explain myself to people because I felt like people were misunderstanding me. Like I said, I lost a lot of friends because a lot of times when my behavior was erratic, or if I was really anxious, or if I wasn't able to socialize, or if I was having delusions, or whatever I was dealing with. And so I always felt like I had to tell everybody. And then when people hear the word mental illness, there's a stigma attached to that. So they immediately like, oh, no, get
I'll catch that.
away.
Yeah.
So
I
that.
so
I have two birds outside my window. Sorry to interrupt you, but I have two birds outside my window, two doves that are building a nest. They're so cute. They keep flying back and forth with little twigs and stuff. They're
my
very beautiful birds.
friend, friend of mine's got a house, and every morning at sun
Hmm.
and every night at sundown, he gets to hear, and it's a woodpecker.
Oh yeah, we have those.
It goes to the chimney of his house, and I mean, it's mating. It's trying to find it, and it just keeps pecking at it.
Oh,
His
is that what that's about? Okay.
and I've been there and heard it, and I says it's kind of neat if I stay here for a day or two. Uh,
Yeah,
there with a
fascinating.
gun, I'm trying to shoot that thing sooner or later.
Shoot it! No, don't you dare.
Too
Yeah.
noisy. Go away.
It is. We have Gila woodpeckers here, and we have a hummingbird feeder, and it has pretty much taken over the hummingbird feeder. The hummingbirds are not going to mess with the Gila woodpecker. They're like three times their size or four. And so it literally like has to wrap itself around the hummingbird feeder in order to feed on it because it's big. And then it does the same thing. There's a hole right here in the side of the building that it pecks at, and they yell their beaks off. They come in here like, we're here. I'm just like, thanks for the announcement. And my kitten, she just loves it. She goes crazy.
But okay.
All right, let's go on to question number two. How has society's perception of your disability influenced your experiences over time?
It's made me who I am. I went blind when I was 3, so I was young enough not to be dependent on eyesight,
Mm.
or yeah, young enough not to be dependent on it, but old enough not to do what they call blindisms, like rocking, like Stevie Wonder. Everybody always thought
Oh,
black
okay.
people could rock because Stevie Wonder did it. Putting fingers in the eyes, that type of stuff. I
Oh,
was old
okay.
enough that I knew not to do that. But I was also, I'm German, so I'm stubborn. And I mean, I went to regular ed school right off, and I had a kid call me handicap
Oh,
and I never did like handicap because I just never liked that word. Um, so yeah, I've had to basically fight for my place in society all along. My siblings went to a parochial school in our hometown, so they were just with white Germans
hmm.
nationality the whole time. I went a half hour away because of this special ed school where I could get braille and mobility training,
Mhm.
but it was Thomas White Elementary was on one end. You go through the door and there was the Millette Learning Center. So I could do the morning in elementary and learn, for instance, to read and write the letters A, B, and C in print, and then go across to the other school and learn to read and braille them in braille.
Hmm.
So it was a really good setup for me. But also, Bridgeport, Michigan is very mixed culture. So I was seeing multiple nationalities. I was seeing hatred from other minorities because of my blindness. I wouldn't have seen any of that at the parochial school. Um, and frankly, I always tell people back then, especially, most of the kids that would help me were either African American or Hispanic.
Hmm.
The whites were not helpful.
Hmm.
Um, then I got kicked out of that school district because we weren't paying taxes. And I had to go back to my home district. And we had to go to the other school because a friend of ours was security at South, no, North. And he says, "You go to South. There's too much drugs, crime here." And my twin brother would give me a ride to school. And the second day when he gave me the ride, he says, "Aren't you scared? Scared of what?"
Hmm.
I says, "I've dealt with that since I was 3." They're friends. They're
Right.
not, and there again, it's the blind. I don't care what people look like. It's what's inside that counts. So I know that was a tangent. Did that answer your question?
It was a great answer. Thank you for sharing, and I really appreciate you being very honest because I'm not afraid to hear real experiences. That's what I want to hear about. So thank you for being honest. The next question, and we only have 10 minutes left of the recording, so I do apologize if we don't get a
Yep.
chance to go through all the questions. It just notified me with a message, so that's how come I know.
I am quick.
Oh, okay. So it's okay. I don't mind if we don't get through all of them. It doesn't matter. They're my own questions that I created.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
So can you describe any accessibility barriers you've faced and how you've overcome them?
Um, right now they're building a connection downtown Phoenix with the light rail,
Hmm.
and it's late. And I'm pretty much telling them you need to start educating mental, physically, visually impaired, all of us now. It can't be when you open.
Right.
And they're going to, well, we're going to have a grand opening for everybody's questions. I said, I want one, a second one the day before,
Hmm. Good
just
suggestion.
us.
Yeah, great
So, th-
suggestion.
so Jack's 3 8-year-old kids screaming and shouting aren't the reason why I can't get my questions answered.
Right. Good point.
So I'm spreading it around to vision impaired schools and anybody that I can find out that uses the light rail and would be willing to either send students or a rep to this supposed first grand opening, whenever it is. Um, so stuff like that, I try to help myself and others.
Right. Right.
So
Yes, all very interdependent, and a lot of times people don't recognize that. And I have a friend who's a mentor, and she always tells me, if you're not feeling that great, if you're feeling down, you need to do an esteemable act. So I just try to make esteemable acts a part of my lifestyle and just naturally help other people without having to make an issue about it, like, oh, I'm helping somebody, or or somebody has to tell me, oh, you need to help people,
well,
because
yeah,
we all need each other essentially.
I've got a friend who moved from from Oregon or Idaho down to here, and then back up to Idaho, and now she's older and she's disabled, and she's having issues,
Mm.
bad ones now. But I do friend counseling with her,
Well, that's
and
nice.
and I used to say when she'd live here, "How you doing?" Okay. Hey, that started my goal with her. If I call her and hear she's having a bad day, if I do nothing else but get a laugh out of her, it was a good conversation.
Right. That's great.
So,
That's amazing. Yeah, esteemable acts actually keep us in a better place too. And I notice that anytime I go and do something for someone else or not directly for someone else, I feel so much better about whatever was going on in my life just became unimportant.
yeah,
And so it's a really good thing that you're doing that, because you're some of these things that you're talking about are very therapeutic for your own uh you know process in life, what you're dealing with. And your feedback, once again, like I said, with that rail situation is amazing. They really need to hear about that, and they need to know that just because somebody's living with a disability, they're not incapable of asserting themselves.
yes.
Very important. I'm really grateful to hear that you're doing that. I'm going to move on to the next question. And the next question is, are there specific accommodations or tools that make navigating daily life easier for you?
I do some stuff on my phone. Um, I can have but I do write while walking. Um, compass, I have to, but usually I'll have my guide dog working with me, and then I'll have my hand in an operation, my phone, and give me directions, or where is the closest Albertsons grocery store, stuff like that. I use my
Hmm.
phone.
Hmm.
Um, I have used it to read signs before. There's an app, free app you can get to take a picture and it'll read stuff for you.
Nice.
Um, Things are getting a lot better technology wise to help independence with the blind.
Great. Yes.
Um, but other than that, again, it's my stubbornness. Nothing's going to say I can't do it except drive. They say I can't drive.
No, but you can shoot a gun. I don't know. What's the difference?
It's one animal versus a highway of people.
That's funny.
So
All right, let's go on to the next question. How has the ADA impacted your life, whether positively, negatively, or both?
I was alive before the ADA was signed into law. I really couldn't tell you what it was like because I was young. I can tell you now there are problems with it. It needs to be tweaked a little bit, but people in wheelchairs wouldn't be able to get to court if they were sued because the courtroom would be on the second floor and no elevators. They didn't need them.
Right.
Um, I remember stories from the Seeing Eye where I get my dog that back in the 19 teens, 1920s, if you and I were walking together and you're supposed to be my guide, and then one day I decide to go out on my own and I get hit by a drunk driver who comes up on the sidewalk and hits me, you're the one that gets sued because you let the blind guy go out alone, not the drunk that hit him.
Wow.
That's what the laws were in the 19 teens. So, yeah, things have changed, but they need to change a lot more.
Right. All right, I have one last question that I want to get to before, because we got
Okay.
three. This is a good one. Have you experienced challenges in employment, education, or public spaces related to accessibility?
Yes. Education. I'm old. Back in the late 90s, people thought they could put stuff on PDFs. They still think they can. They're not the most blind friendly thing. Um, People do stuff on Facebook. That's not blind friendly. My phone will tell me, yeah, your brother put up a picture. Okay. What is it? Nobody puts words.
Right.
Um, I've had jobs where the employer didn't understand why I needed a laptop. Well, we give you one. Yeah, it's a Mac. Macs aren't the best for the blind yet. Um, yeah, there's free software for speech, for talking, having your computer talk to you, but it's junk. It's nothing like what I use, which is JAWS, and that costs 1,200.
Mm.
Um, so it's getting through the loopholes like that of no, I need this. That won't work. No. Um, I worked for